Hello, Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Black Butler, chapter 177. When we last left our heroes, Baldroy had arrived at Phantom Hive Manor. I think that was only the first chapter of Baldroy's flashback. So kicking off a new flashback, we see that he's still very heavily traumatized, having just come back from the war. And he kind of very quickly, underestimates Mayrin and Finian and Sebastian, and comes into conflict with Sebastian and Ciel as to what his duties as a chef are. Baldroy has this very kind of, wartime view of food. It just needs to be edible, whereas Ciel is expecting the chef of an earl, which culminates in Baldroy mutilating a chicken. And when he defends himself and also spits the food out on Sebastian's shoe at one point, Sebastian just whacks him. If you want this to be the military, I'll train you like it's the military. And that's where we left off. So we have here our cover page. Baldroy kind of looking back at Sebastian behind him, distrustingly, as Sebastian is just as placid as ever. The butler behind him is the thorn in his side. Chapter 177, The Butler Guiding. And we open in flashback within a flashback land, as Baldroy is, in his mind back in the war, pouring down rain. I think that's like the mouth of the cave where Sebastian would find him. Looking at his friend, Terry, you awake? This isn't a fancy dinner, but I managed to collect some water from the rain yesterday. Here, drink it. And Terry, mumbles something, and, Baldroy leans in, what? And he finally hears, Mom was a great cook. I loved her candied yams. She boiled a pot full of it, and for Thanksgiving, she made them with plenty of butter and spices. Candied yams, for those of y'all who don't know, classic southern dish that made by boiling yams, sweet potatoes with brown sugar until the sauce reduces to a syrup. I am actually from the South, and I've never actually had candied yams, so I can't quite confirm that. But Baldroy tries to laugh that off. Hey, enough already. My stomach's gonna start growling just thinking about it. I think this is sort of to indicate how weak Terry is, but the font on his dialogue is so tiny. I am struggling to read it. My younger brother and I always fought over them. He died in this battle, so I gotta return home. He is right about to die. He is definitely about to die. I want to eat her candied yams again. And I think we see the light leave his eyes as he dies. And Baldroy questions him, Terry? And he just, shakes him. Terry! Hey, pull yourself together. Terry! No, sorry. Pull yourself together. If you stop fighting, you'll never get to eat your mom's food again. Terry! And he acknowledges that Terry is dead. No breath in him. His hands are still. And Baldroy looks back at the mountain of corpses behind him and just weakly utters, don't leave me behind. And then he wakes up back in the Phantom Hive Manor. Interestingly, I may be wrong here, but I don't think last chapter used black borders for the Phantom Hive scenes. It treated it like the present, but those black borders kind of continue onto that page. And having accidentally skipped to the next page real fast, they continue for the next two pages as well. So that's interesting. But anyway, he wakes up as the alarm rings. He slams it off. It was a dream. And he looks at the clock. It's 5 a.m. Set the alarm clock to 7:30 a.m. The servant's handbook said the chef doesn't... Hold on. The servant's handbook said the chef doesn't have to wake up until about 8 a.m. That's some really, really tiny print there. It's almost into the One Piece problem. But with One Piece, I can zoom in on Firefox. But this is just iBooks Reader, and I can't really do that here. Anyway, Sebastian walks in. Good morning. A chef can afford to sleep late at a manor with kitchen maids and scullery maids, but not here. Work that maids do, such as cleaning the kitchen, the scullery, the larder, and the passageway, Keeping cooking utensils in good condition and preparing the ingredients must all be done by the apprentice chef. Huh? I'm curious though. Apprentice chef there. Um, Balderoy is the only chef. So is that kind of like a dig at like because Balderoy is such a shitty cook? He's only an apprentice right now, as Sebastian still kind of has to do everything for him. Hmm. I'm not entirely sure. But like, so this here, there's a huge like swap in like a tonal whiplash there. Going from the previous page to this one, as Balderoy's like, it was all a dream. He's still freshly traumatized. And then Sebastian is just like completely ignoring that. He's fully in domestic mode. Um, Anyway, Baltimore just kind of stares at him in shock at this huge monologue he's gone on. As Sebastian kind of mocks him, you must learn the duties and responsibilities of a trainee kitchen maid, as you cannot even roast meat yet. And then he kind of teases, would you like to wear a maid uniform while you're at it? And Baltimore snaps, no way in hell! And Sebastian turns to leave, then get dressed now and come to the kitchen. And Baltimore points towards Finian, who is just snoozing away. Don't you need to wake this kid? Finney is the gardener. His work begins after the sun rises. Ow, he kind of rubs his eyes awake. And thinks, that bastard Butler. Oh no, he's rubbing the wounds from last chapter. Beat me up with a straight face. And now he's in the kitchen talking to Sebastian. And Sebastian kind of continues the sort of expository monologue from earlier. Now, let me explain the state of affairs of the kitchen of this manor. Our master Earl Phantomhive is still young. He does not have a wife who would be mistress of the manor. We do not even have a housekeeper. So I, the butler, have been entrusted with the responsibility of planning the menu. Fortunately or unfortunately, young master is a misanthrope, not very sociable. Okay, I like a little like cut he does, to what's so far been just a really, really bland chapter. And looking at the page count in the little bottom thing, there's only like 4 pages left this chapter, and nothing has happened. But let's see if it can redeem itself in its last few pages. So formal dinners with a large number of guests are almost never held. But the primary role of the chef is that of a military commander who gives orders to his assistants and makes sure each course is served on time. So we see sort of, for things like Mayrin, and I don't remember if we know enough of the Finian backstory to really comment on Finian. I know there's something about him being an experiment we learned back in Emerald Witch, but I kind of forget the details there. But Mayrin is a shit maid. That's not even subtle. She can't see, she's always breaking shit. And she's solely there as, a sniper. And Balderoy, I always assumed, was on the same page there. He can't cook. We know very well that he cannot cook. And so he's just there as like a hired gun. Except here, there's something about Sebastian specifically pointing out the primary role of the chef is that of a military commander. That bit seems a bit more in line for Balderoy's, I imagine, his skill sets. We don't really see him as a military commander in his flashbacks within flashbacks. But if he actually had, like, assistants under him, he might actually be kind of good at his job. However, he doesn't, so he kind of sucks at it. Make sure each course is served on time. That means, this is your new battlefield, Commander Baldo. Important note there is that Sebastian refused to call Balderoy Baldo last chapter. And I forget if Sebastian normally does in the present timeline. That's what happens when you separate your characters for several years. You just sort of forget important things. Anyway, it's just kind of something to keep an eye on. This manor is seriously short of hands. Now start work by cleaning the scullery. Yeah. And we cut to him in what I guess is the scullery. It looks like a pantry to me, and I don't know if those are the same things. As Sebastian walks in, Baldo, do not leave the larder floor wet. It will be a hotbed of household germs. Baldroy, by the way, is kind of casually snacking on some sausage. In another scene, this saucepan is tarnished. If not washed thoroughly, it will rust. Not to mention, it's unsanitary. And Baldroy is kind of like scratching his head, not really caring. Again here, as Sebastian continues, you did not pluck this pheasant properly. The vegetables you washed still has mud on it. What if our master gets food poisoning? And Baldroy just does not really care. Sebastian, like, head in hands. It is not an exaggeration to say the kitchen is where you manage the health of the entire manor. As humans are frail, kind of letting slip his sort of demon personality there. Do pay special attention to hygiene. And Baldroy looks at him with, like, contempt and laughs. So Mr. Aristocrat Kid gets sick if he gets mud in his mouth? He's awfully delicate. A runt is supposed to run outdoors and get covered with mud. And he flashes back to the boy from last chapter that I think we don't have any confirmed info on, but I'm still theorizing is his son, because he kind of referred to the wife and son in his like fake backstory that he told to Ada and Ronald, and I'm thinking there's some more there's some genuine truth to that backstory. But anyway, that reminder of a run is supposed to run outdoors and get covered with mud. Kind of Baldroy's face falls, and Sebastian looks at him, and then sighs. I will take over the preparations today and assign you another task instead. And he hands Sebastian a chicken. Redeem yourself by roasting a chicken. To be continued. All right. This chapter is not very good. It's just not very good. It's not good in that typical Butler way, in that like there are snippets here that are really getting at something. And if this were, 12 pages of a real full-length chapter, the Boruto chapter I covered earlier today was like 40 pages. So if this were 12 pages of a 40-page chapter, it'd be really good. But it's not. It's a 12-page chapter where almost nothing happens. The closest we get to things happening here is this sort of, furthering the war flashback. As Baldroy, him and Terry and all these images of food kind of tie into his future as a chef, while also leaning into Baldroy's PTSD, which is all really good. If it really, it's like a quarter of the chapter, and it's not really diving into new territory. It's just sort of reiterating things we've already been told about Baldroy for the past several months. And then again, these little like snippets of who I imagine is Baldroy's son, maybe a little brother, but again, probably son. That's interesting, but we don't get a lot of it, and it's just Baldroy learning not to be an asshole to the other, or not even not be an asshole. That was a little bit of last chapter, but this is really just having to do his job and do it well, and that's just not really exciting at all. It's not really what anyone comes to Black Butler for. Like, God. I was hopeful after last chapter. After last chapter, jumped right into Baldroy as a staff member, that this flashback would be quick. I don't know anymore. I just do not know. I don't know. I'm sure at some point this flashback will end. This is not me saying I am signing off on the series. At this point, y'all are stuck with me. I'm in this for the long haul. And I know it will probably be another decade before we get out of fucking Blue Cult. But yeah, there's just nothing to this chapter. There are the slightest snippets of good things, and nothing else. So, I don't know. I got nothing. I really just got nothing for this. I'm like skimming through it again as I'm talking, trying to find something. And there's the bit with the boy that might lead, I imagine will lead to something later. I just really don't want it to be like a flashback within a flashback. That also goes on for 6 months, because that would just be that at that point it'd be like Yana becoming a parody of herself. Um, in a really bad way. I don't know. Please don't do that. I'm afraid I just like willed that into existence. Um, but yeah, it's just not a good chapter. There's not a lot here to really talk about. I mean, like, I kind of knew that going in because it's another Yana flashback chapter. Nothing is going to happen. But, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know anymore. I mean, I should know. I shouldn't be this distressed. I don't know why this chapter is getting this harsher reaction out of me. It's been like this for years now. Um, I mean, even parts of the 2CT flashback, a flashback that was largely very good, occasionally just had chapters that could have been skipped. Um, but they weren't, and I'm reviewing them, and uh, uh, I don't fucking know anymore. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I was a minute ago. I had like a thought line I wanted to go down, and I lost it somewhere along the way. This is just not a good chapter. I want to be out of here. I want things to happen. I mean, I talked about this before, I think, but the problem with these is that you get these snippets of actual quality manga. And when Yana is outside of flashbacks, it's still paced slow as molasses, but like there's good shit going on in the present storyline. And then she just sits in these flashbacks for months and months on end. And I'm repeating the same points month after month after month after month. And just write your fucking manga, Yana. Write the story that you've been telling, or go on hiatus if you don't want to write that story, or do something. Do something beyond this. This feels like an insult. I don't know. I don't like it when my videos turn more into rants than into reviews, but something about this chapter is just a rant. It's just a rant at this point. It's not good. This is not a good chapter. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave this video off here. I've been rambling for 5 or 6 minutes now. I have nothing else left to say. I hope y'all enjoyed this chapter more than I did, and if not, at least I hope the video was some bit of catharsis for you. Yeah, I fucked up my outro there, and now I don't know where I am in it. As always, your life is your own, okay? Bye. Like and subscribe, that's the other thing. Like and subscribe.